My name is Anna. I am 31 years old. I work as a receptionist at a dental clinic, and I live in a quiet neighborhood with my husband, Julian. We've been married for 8 years. I married young, just after I turned 23. At the time, it felt right. Julian was kind and strong. He worked as an electrician and had just started taking small jobs on his own. I loved that he was hardworking and honest. He wasn't the kind of man who used big words, but when he said something, he meant it. We met at a friend's birthday dinner. I remember the room was loud and full of laughter, but somehow Julian and I found a quiet corner to talk. He asked me if I liked working at the clinic. I asked him how he got into electrical work. He smiled and said, "I like fixing things." I laughed and said, "Then maybe you'll be useful someday." That's how it began. A simple talk, a small spark, and within a year, we were married. Our wedding was sweet and simple. We didn't have much money, but we had love. I wore a borrowed dress. We danced in my aunt's backyard under string lights. I remember thinking, this is all I need. Just him and me. The first few years were beautiful. We didn't have much, but we had each other. We painted the kitchen together and laughed when we got paint on our clothes. Julian would bring home snacks after work and surprise me. We sat on the sofa and talked about our dreams. He wanted to start his own business. I wanted to travel one day, maybe see the sea. We shared everything: silly stories, late-night worries, hopes, fears. I never felt alone. I felt seen. But slowly, that changed. At first, it was small things. Julian came home more tired. He said less. He smiled less. I thought maybe he was just working too hard, so I tried to make home peaceful. I cooked warm meals. I gave him space to rest. I didn't ask too many questions. But over time, the silence between us grew louder. One evening, I said, "The clinic was so busy today. A little boy asked if teeth grow back like hair." Julian looked at his phone and said, No laugh. No follow-up. He just went back to scrolling. I told myself it was fine. Not every day had to be perfect. Maybe tomorrow would be better. But tomorrow was the same. I made his favorite dinner, spaghetti with mushrooms and garlic bread. He came home, looked at the table and said, "I already ate." I said, "Oh, I thought we could eat together." He replied, "I had lunch late. I wasn't hungry." Then he turned on the TV. That night, I lay in bed beside him. I looked at his back and whispered, "Julian?" He didn't answer. I wasn't even sure he heard me. I began to feel invisible. I started asking myself, when did we stop talking? When did we become strangers sharing a house? I tried again and again. I asked if he wanted to take a weekend walk or go to the market together. He always said he was tired or had work to do. I once asked, "Do you still love me?" He looked confused and said, "Why would you ask something like that?" I said, "Because I can't feel it." He sighed and said, "I'm here, aren't I? Isn't that enough?" But it wasn't. Being in the same room is not the same as being together. I missed him, his voice, his eyes, his presence. I missed the way he used to pull me close on cold nights. Now, we both turned away. One Friday evening, I set the table with candles. It was the anniversary of our first date. I wore the same earrings I wore back then. I even curled my hair. Julian came home and said, "Why is the house so dark?" I said, "I made dinner. I thought we could eat together." He looked at the food. "Looks nice, but I already ate." "Sorry." I said, "Do you remember what day it is?" He blinked. "No." "What?" I smiled, but it felt heavy. "It's been 9 years since our first date." He paused. "Oh, right. Sorry. Happy whatever." He walked to the bedroom. I sat at the table alone. I didn't cry right away. I just stared at the food, at the candles. They flickered quietly, like they were tired too. After that night, I stopped trying so hard. I went to work. I came home. I cooked. I cleaned. I did the usual things. Julian did too. But we didn't talk. Not really. One morning, I forgot to iron his work shirt. He looked annoyed and said, "You had one thing to do." I wanted to scream, "I have everything to do." But I said nothing. I started keeping a journal. I wrote things I couldn't say aloud. "Julian, today I passed a bakery that smelled like our honeymoon. You didn't remember our date." I smiled anyway. "Do you see me anymore?" I never showed him the notebook. One Sunday, I went to a cafe alone. I sat for 2 hours, watching people talk, laugh, share bites of cake. A woman beside me smiled and said, "Waiting for someone?" I smiled back and said, "No, just needed a break." When I got home, Julian was on the sofa. He didn't ask where I'd been. He didn't even look up. He said, "We need milk." That night, I cried in the bathroom, quietly. I didn't want him to hear. I didn't want to explain. The saddest part isn't the silence. It's how normal it has become. Some days, I told myself things would get better. Maybe Julian was just going through something. Maybe I needed to be more patient. But deep inside, I knew this silence wasn't new anymore. It was now part of our life. At work, I tried to smile. I answered the phones at the clinic, greeted patients, and gave directions. But when people looked into my eyes, I wondered if they could see through me. I wondered if anyone could tell that I felt empty. One afternoon, my coworker Laura brought me a cupcake. It was from a bakery near her house. "You look like you need something sweet," she said with a smile. I thanked her and said, "Just tired." But I wasn't tired. I was lonely. That night, I brought the cupcake home and placed it on the kitchen table. I thought Julian and I could share it. Maybe we could sit down, talk, laugh, just for a minute?" When he came home, I said, "Laura brought this from her bakery. Want to try?" He looked at the table. "You know, I don't like sweets," he said flatly. He went to the bedroom and closed the door. I sat there, looking at the little cupcake, and for some reason, tears came. I didn't even feel sad in that moment, just numb. A few days later, I tried to talk again. "Do you think we're okay?" I asked quietly. Julian was fixing something on his phone. "What do you mean?" I said. "Us. Do you think we're okay?" He looked away. "We're fine. Why do you always ask these kinds of things?" "I just feel like we don't really talk anymore," I said. He sighed loudly. "We live together. We eat together. We sleep in the same bed. What else do you want?" I wanted to say, "I want your eyes. I want your voice. I want your love." But I said nothing. Before I go on, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. I started spending more time alone. On Saturdays, I went to the small park near the clinic. I sat on a bench and watched people walk their dogs or feed birds. I listened to the sounds around me, kids laughing, leaves blowing, life happening. Sometimes I took a book, but I didn't read. I just held it. Looking at the pages felt easier than looking at my life. At home, Julian became more distant. He stayed longer in the garage. He fixed small machines and worked on side jobs. He said less and less every week. One night I made soup. He came home, looked at the bowl and said, "Is this all we have?" I nodded. "It's fresh. I made it for you." He didn't say thank you. He just ate and left his dish in the sink. After he went to bed, I stood in the kitchen and washed the bowl. I looked out the window into the dark. I remembered our first apartment, where we once danced to music while washing dishes together. Now, there was no music, no laughter, only silence and water. A few weeks later, my parents invited us for dinner. I told Julian about it. He said, "You go. I'm busy that day." I asked, "Busy with what?" He looked annoyed. "Just things. Work. I don't know yet." I went alone. My mom asked, "Where's Julian?" I smiled and said, "Working late." But she gave me a look, a quiet, gentle look that said she didn't believe me. Later, she brought me tea and sat beside me. "Anna," she said, "are you happy?" I looked down. "I'm okay." She held my hand. Okay is not the same as happy. I wanted to cry, but I held it in. I didn't want to explain. I didn't even know how. On the way home, I walked slowly. I passed houses with lights in the windows. I saw shadows of people sitting at tables, talking. It looked warm. It looked full. When I got home, Julian was asleep on the sofa. The TV was still on. I turned it off. picked up a blanket and covered him. I stood there for a second, just looking at his face. He looked peaceful in sleep. I wondered, where did you go? Where is the man I married? The next day I asked him, do you want to talk sometime? Maybe just go out like before? He said, I'm not a child. I don't need to go out to feel something. I smiled, but my heart hurt. One evening, I found an old photo album while cleaning. It had pictures from our early days, us painting the kitchen, eating ice cream on the floor, smiling in cheap sunglasses. I waited for Julian to come home. When he did, I held the album out. Do you remember this? I asked. He looked at the cover. Yeah, old stuff. I opened the page. This was the night we burned the rice and had popcorn for dinner. He glanced for a second. Funny. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. He didn't even turn the page. I sat with the album in my lap. My hands shook slightly. I closed it slowly and placed it back in the drawer. It felt like closing a door. One night, I came home early. Julian was outside talking to someone. I stayed inside and watched through the window. He was laughing, smiling. His voice was full of life. I hadn't seen him like that in months. When he came in, I said, You seemed happy just now. He looked surprised. What? I saw you outside, laughing. I miss that side of you. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, Maybe you miss who I used to be. People change, Anna. I nodded. Yes, people change. But do they stop caring? He didn't say anything. He just went to take a shower. That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking, if I disappeared tomorrow, would he notice? The next morning, Julian left early. No goodbye, no coffee, just the sound of the door closing. I sat on the bed and held my cup of tea. I felt the quiet of the house pressing against me like heavy air. That was when I realized something. We hadn't had a real conversation in months. Not about dreams, not about fears, not even about simple things like how we were feeling. We were two people sharing a roof, but not a life. And I didn't know how to fix it anymore. The days after that morning were quiet. Too quiet. I stopped trying. I stopped asking questions. I stopped hoping Julian would notice. I did what I had to do. Woke up, went to work, came home, made dinner. But inside, I was shutting down. I still smiled at patients at the clinic. I still answered phones and said, "Have a nice day." But the truth was, I didn't know what a nice day felt like anymore. One afternoon, my coworker Laura asked, "Do you want to come with me to a pottery class this weekend?" I smiled politely. "Thanks, but I think I'll stay home." She looked at me for a moment. "Anna, do you ever do anything for yourself?" That question stayed with me all evening. I sat at home while Julian worked in the garage. I looked around our quiet living room and asked myself the same thing. When was the last time I did something just for me? That weekend, I changed my answer. I went to the pottery class with Laura. It was simple: clay, water, music, and people laughing. I didn't know what I was doing, but I laughed too. I made a small bowl. It wasn't perfect. It was crooked and soft on one side. But when I held it in my hands, I felt proud. Not because it looked good, but because I made something. Something that was mine. After class, Laura said, "That smile suits you." I smiled bigger. "Thank you." When I came home, Julian was on the sofa. He didn't ask where I was. He didn't even look up. I went to the kitchen, made tea, and sat alone. But I didn't feel sad. Not that night. I had done something small, but it reminded me that I was still here. Still alive. The next week, I signed up for another class. Then I started walking after dinner. I passed shops and bakeries. I watched kids riding bikes and people walking dogs. I kept my phone in my bag and let the world move around me. Julian didn't ask why I was coming home later. He didn't ask at all. One night, I came home and found the house dark. No dinner, no noise, just quiet. I turned on the light and saw a note on the table. It said, "Went to a friend's. Don't wait up." It was the first time he left a note in months. I stared at the paper. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel hurt. I just felt done. That night, I sat with my journal and wrote something different. "Julian, I don't know who we are anymore." I waited. I begged with silence. I begged with meals, with smiles, with patience. I begged by staying. But I can't keep begging. I still love the memory of us. But I can't live in a memory. I closed the book and went to sleep. The next morning, I got up early. I cleaned the house. I washed the sheets. I cooked breakfast. Then I sat across from Julian and said, "Can we talk?" He looked at me. "Now?" "Yes." "Please." He put down his fork. "Okay." I looked at him, not with anger, but with calm. "I don't want to live like this anymore." Julian didn't answer right away. He looked down, then said, "You're saying it's my fault?" I shook my head. "I'm not blaming you. I'm just telling you how I feel. We don't talk. We don't laugh. You don't ask how I am. You don't see me." He sighed. "I didn't know it was that bad." I nodded. "That's the problem." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "What do you want me to say?" "I don't want words," I said softly. "I want truth. Do you still want this marriage?" Julian looked away. His hands were still. His voice was low. "I don't know." I felt something crack inside. But it wasn't sharp. It was quiet, like a thread finally snapping after being pulled too long. "Thank you for being honest," I said. "I think I need time. I need space." Julian didn't argue. He just nodded. That weekend, I packed a small bag and went to stay with my cousin for a while. Her place was small but warm. She welcomed me with open arms and soft blankets. She didn't ask for details. She just said, "Rest. You deserve it." In that quiet space, I found myself again. I wrote more. I painted one morning. I called my mom and cried. I told her everything. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just listened. And then she said, "You're brave, Anna. I'm proud of you." A few days later, I got a message from Julian. It said, "Can we talk soon?" I said, "Yes, but not yet." I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I just needed time. I didn't know what the future would look like. Maybe we would try again. Maybe we wouldn't. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't scared of being alone. I wasn't waiting to be seen. I was seeing myself. And that was a start. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon. My name is Anna. I am 17 years old. I live in Washington with my parents. I go to high school. One night, I sat alone in my room. I was bored and tired. I did not want to study. I did not feel happy. I looked at my phone. I wanted to talk to someone. I wanted to feel better. I wanted attention. I opened a dating app. I made a profile. I used one photo. I wrote only a few words. I did not think too much. Then a message came. It was from someone named Daniel. He said he was 25. He lived near me. He called me pretty. He said I had a sweet smile. He sent more messages. He said I looked smart. I smiled at my phone. His words were nice. He made me feel special. I wanted to read more. He sent me a picture of himself. He looked nice. He had brown hair. His face looked soft and friendly. He said he worked online. He did not say more. I asked again, but he changed the topic. Every morning he sent a message. Every night he said goodnight. He wrote kind things all the time. I started to like it. I had not talked to boys like this before. I liked how he made me feel. We talked more each day. I told him I liked art. He said he liked it too. He said I was fun and smart. After 2 weeks, he asked to video call. I felt nervous, but I said yes. That night we talked on video. He smiled a lot. His voice was soft. He asked about school. He said I looked nice, but something felt wrong. He looked older than his photo. His eyes looked tired. I asked how old he really was. He laughed and said he just looked tired that day. I wanted to believe him. The next day, I talked to my best friend Emma. I told her I was talking to a man online. I said he was 25. I said he was nice to me. Emma looked worried. She told me to be careful. I did not listen. I wanted Emma to say she was happy for me, but she didn't. She said nothing more. That night, Daniel sent me a new photo. He wore a black jacket. His hair was short. His face looked older. He looked very different. He looked much older than 25. I stared at the photo for a long time. I asked him again about his age. This time, he told the truth. He said, "I am 39, but I like you. That should not matter." I stopped reading. I felt cold. I did not reply. I sat in my room. I felt confused. The next morning, I told Emma everything. She looked shocked. She said it was not okay. She was right. Daniel had lied to me. He said he was 25, but he was 39. I was only 17. Still, I talked to him again. I did not want to lose him. I wanted to feel special again. He kept sending sweet words. He asked me to send more pictures. I said no. He got quiet, then said sorry. He called me again later. He told jokes. I laughed. For a short time, I forgot his lies. He said I was perfect. He said he thought about me. He said I was the only one. I wanted to believe him, but something inside me started to worry. One evening, I searched his name online. I looked at different profiles. Then I found something strange. There was another account. It had his picture, but it had a different name. I opened the page. I saw his profile. He was talking to other girls. He used the same words with them. He told each girl she was the only one. He told each girl she was beautiful and smart. I felt sick. I felt small. I could not believe it. I was not special to him. I waited one day. Then I asked him why he lied. He said he didn't lie. He said he used many apps. He said I was the best one, but I did not believe that anymore. The next night he sent one more message. He asked me to meet him. He told me to come alone. He sent an address. It was far from my house. It was not near any place I knew. I felt afraid. I showed Emma. I told her everything. She looked serious. She told me to block him right away. She said, "This is not safe." I listened to her this time. I opened the app. I read our old chats. I saw his sweet words, but I knew now they were not real. I blocked him. I deleted the app. I sat in silence. I looked at my phone and felt nothing. That night I told my mom the full story. She sat with me. She listened. She did not get angry. She said I was brave. She said I did the right thing. She said, "You are safe now. That is what matters." I felt a little better. I was still hurt, but I knew she was right. Daniel lied to me. He lied about his name. He lied about his age. He lied about the other girls. He used kind words, but they were fake. I made a mistake, but I learned from it. I was still young. I would be more careful next time. I would never trust sweet words from a stranger again. Daniel was not kind. He was not honest. But I was not weak. I stopped him before it was too late. I was not alone, and I was not afraid anymore. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. After I blocked Daniel, I could not sleep. I looked at the ceiling. I felt tired, but my mind stayed busy. I thought about everything. Why did he lie? Why did I trust him? Why did he choose me? I looked at my phone. It was quiet now. No messages. No sweet words. No fake good morning. At first, I felt sad. I did not miss Daniel. I missed the way he made me feel. I missed feeling important. But I knew the truth now. His words were not real. His face, his job, even his name, all fake. At school, I saw Emma. She smiled. I smiled too. We sat together at lunch. She looked at me for a moment. Then she said I was strong. That made me feel better. Maybe I made a mistake. But I also made a smart choice. I blocked him before it was too late. That night, I stayed off the apps. I did not open any chats. I just watched a funny show with my family. I still thought about Daniel. I still felt a little hurt. But I also felt calm. 1 week later, something strange happened. A new message came. The name was different. The photo was new. But the words were the same. I miss you. I want to talk. I stared at the screen. I knew it was him. He was trying again. I showed Emma the message. She looked at the photo. She knew too. It was Daniel, but with a new name. I did not reply. I blocked the new account. I sat for a moment. I felt cold, but I also felt strong. He was still looking for girls, but I would not fall again. I was done with his lies. Later that week, Emma sent me a link. It was a warning page. It said, "Be careful. This man lies to girls online." I opened the page. I saw his piece. I stopped breathing for a second. It was Daniel. His real name was not Daniel. It was Mark. He was 39. He had done this to many girls. He used many names. He made many profiles. He told the same lies to every girl. I kept reading. One girl wrote about him. She said he made her feel special. But it was not real. Another girl said he asked to meet. She went to see him, but she took a friend. She said she was lucky. I felt my hands shake. That could have been me. I almost went to meet him. I almost went alone. Emma sat beside me. She said I was lucky too. I did not go. I blocked him. I told someone. Then she looked at me. She said we should tell more people, not just each other. I was quiet. I felt nervous. I did not want to get in trouble, but deep inside I knew she was right. That night, I told my mom more. I told her about the page. I told her about the other girls. She listened to me. Her face looked serious. Then she took my hand and said we would go to the police. The next day we went to the station. I was nervous. I felt cold inside. I wanted to go back home. A woman police officer came to speak with us. She looked calm. Her voice was kind. She asked me to tell the full story. I told her about Daniel. I told her about the app. I told her everything. I showed her the warning page. She looked at the screen. Then she looked at me and said something that helped. She said I was not alone. She said other girls had been hurt too. She said I did the right thing. She wrote down all the details. She said they would look into it. She said I was brave. After that, I felt different. I felt a little better. My mom held my hand. I felt safe again. I went home and deleted all the dating apps. I did not want them anymore. I did not want to talk to strangers again. At school, I told Emma everything. She was happy I spoke to the police. She said we should help more girls. We had an idea. We made a small poster. It said, "Be safe online. Don't trust strangers. Don't meet people alone." We gave the poster to our teacher. She put it on the wall in the hallway. She said it was important. Some girls looked at the poster. A few asked why we made it. We just said, "We know how fast things can go wrong." Emma smiled at me that day. She said I was helping others. That made me feel proud. Weeks passed. Life felt normal again. I went to school. I watched shows. I ate dinner with my family. But one day, it happened again. A message came from a new name. The photo looked different. I opened the message. I saw his face. It was him again. New name. New photo. Same lie. This time, I did not feel afraid. I did not even think. I just blocked him again. Later, I told Emma. She laughed. She said he still tried. But she said I was smarter now. I laughed too. She was right. I knew better now. I would not fall again. One evening, I sat with my mom. We were watching the news on TV. The story was about fake people online, about men who lie to girls. I listened carefully. My mom looked at me and said something soft. She said, "Anna, I'm proud of you." I looked at her. I said, "I just want girls to be safe." She smiled. "You're helping them," she said. "You are using your voice." Maybe I was just 17. But I learned something big. Not all people are good. Some people say nice things to get what they want. Some people lie. But I did not stay silent. I told the truth. I warned others. And I know I will never fall for someone like him again. After I blocked Daniel, my days started to feel normal again. I did not feel scared anymore. I did not cry every night. I went back to school. I spent time with Emma. I watched shows with my mom. I smiled more. But I still remembered him. I remembered his fake words. I remembered his face. And the other girls he lied to. I knew I had to keep speaking. I had to help more girls. I wanted them to stay safe too. One day at school, a girl came to me. Her name was Lisa. She sat near me in class, but we never talked before. She looked shy. She looked nervous. She waited until class ended. Then she came to me and asked if we could talk. I said yes. She said she met someone online. He was kind, but he said he was older. She looked worried. She looked down when she spoke. She did not know what to do. I told her I understood. I said, "It happened to me too." She looked at me with wide eyes. She was surprised. She listened as I spoke. I told her about Daniel. I told her he lied. I told her he was not 25. He was 39. I told her he messaged other girls too. I said he asked to meet me. I told her I almost went. I told her I blocked him. I told the police. I warned others. Lisa said thank you. She said she was scared. But now she felt strong. She said she would block her person too. I felt proud in that moment. My story was helping others. Weeks passed. I stopped thinking about Daniel every day. I stopped waiting for messages. I deleted all dating apps. I did not want them anymore. One day I told Emma, I don't think I will ever use them again. She agreed. She said we didn't need them. We could make better choices. We started a small group at school. We called it Stay Safe Online. It was just the two of us at first. We made posters with simple messages. We told students, be careful. Don't meet strangers. Talk to someone you trust. We gave the posters to our teacher. She put them on the wall near the office. Some students looked. Some asked questions. Emma and I talked to younger girls. We told them short stories. We shared safe steps. Some girls listened. Some smiled. Some just walked by. But we were happy to try. One day, our teacher told us we were doing something good. She said more students needed to hear our story. She said we could speak in class. I felt nervous, but I said yes. I stood in front of the room. My hands felt cold. But I spoke anyway. I said I met someone online. I said he lied. I said I believed him for a while. But then I learned the truth. I told the class he was much older. I told them he talked to many girls. I said I almost went to meet him, but I didn't. I told them I blocked him. I told the police. I told my mom. I said, if this happens to you, speak up. You are not alone. The room was quiet. Some girls looked shocked. Some looked sad. But they listened. That was enough. After class, 2 girls came to me. They said thank you. They said they needed to hear that. I felt warm inside. My voice was helping others now. That was all I wanted. One day, something strange happened again. I was home, sitting with my mom. We were watching the news. There was a story on TV about online lies, about people who use fake names to talk to young girls. The screen showed faces. I looked closer. My heart stopped. It was him. The reporter said his real name. It was Mark. He had many names. He had hurt many girls. He was caught. The police found him. He was not free anymore. I sat still. I stared at the screen. I did not cry. I did not move. I felt so many things at once. Relief, fear, sadness, but also pride. My mom turned to me. She asked, "Is that him?" I said yes. She sat beside me. We were quiet. Then she said, "You helped stop him." I nodded. I felt strong. I did not feel like a victim anymore. I felt like someone who did the right thing. A week later, the school principal called me to her office. She smiled and said she was proud of me. She said, "Anna, will you speak at the school assembly?" I was surprised. I said, "What should I say?" She said, "Tell your story. Show others how to stay safe." I felt nervous again, but I said yes. I wanted others to know. The next day, I stood in front of the school. The room was full. I looked at so many faces. I took a deep breath. Then I spoke. I said I met someone online. I said he was not real. He said he was 25, but he was 39. He sent kind words, but he also sent lies. I believed him for a while, but not forever. I said I blocked him. I told someone. I stopped him before I got hurt. I told them, if someone lies to you, tell the truth. You are not weak. You are not alone. After the talk, I sat with Emma. She smiled at me. She said I was brave. I smiled too. I said, "I just told what happened." That night, I sat near my window. The sky was dark. The street was quiet. I thought about other girls who might still be talking to someone like Daniel. I hoped they would learn. I hoped they would speak. I hoped they would be safe. Because one message can change a life. One lie can break a heart. One voice can stop it. and I used my voice. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.